If you're in the world of industrial assets, you know the feeling, right? You're practically drowning in maintenance data, but you're absolutely starving for real actionable insight. Well, today we're going to fix that. We're going to demystify maintenance information standards and show you why they're not just some compliance checkbox. They're actually a secret weapon for your strategy.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the big problem, what we're calling the Data Tower of Babel. Then, we'll talk about the solution, how standards create a shared language. After that, we'll take a tour of the standards ecosystem, lay out a practical plan to get you started, and wrap it all up with the key takeaways. So, let's kick things off by putting a name to a problem that, let's be honest, you probably face every single day.
It's the question that just hangs in the air in every reliability meeting, doesn't it? You've got this mountain of data coming out of your CMMS, your maintenance management system, but when you actually need to make a big call, the data just feels, well, wobbly. You can't quite trust it. So why is that?
It really comes down to this, the Tower of Babel effect. You've got different shifts, different sites, different technicians, and they all use slightly different terms for the exact same thing. A person might be able to figure it out, but your database? No way. Everybody's talking, but nobody's speaking the same language. And this data chaos, it has some really serious consequences. You can't benchmark one plant against another with any confidence. All your fancy analytics, like mean time between failures, it all just becomes guesswork. And that big AI initiative you've heard so much about, forget it. Your team's going to spend all their time just cleaning data instead of finding insights. The bottom line is, you just waste precious time arguing about what the data even means.
But here's the good news. It absolutely does not have to be this way. Let's pivot from that frustrating problem to the solution. How we find a shared language that everyone can actually understand and, more importantly, trust. Just imagine going from all that confusion and doubt to a place of absolute clarity and confidence. And that is the promise of industry standards. Now, don't think of these as a bunch of restrictive rules. Think of them as a shared vocabulary, a common dictionary. They give you a structure that delivers three crucial things: consistency, so everyone's on the same page; quality, so you know the information is reliable; and the big one, trust, so your reports become credible and people actually start using them to make decisions.
Now, I know the world of standards can seem overwhelming. There are so many of them. So the best way to wrap your head around it is to think of it like a layered ecosystem. Each layer, each standard is designed to solve one specific piece of the puzzle, and they all work together beautifully. So let's take a quick tour of the most important layers in this ecosystem, and we'll start right at the very top. Okay, this is a brilliant way to put it. The top layer is strategy, and it's all about the ISO 55000 series. If your day-to-day data management is the engine room that keeps everything running, then ISO 55000 is the constitution. It sets the high-level rules of the game. It connects what you do in maintenance directly to what the business actually cares about. It makes sure you're not just busy fixing things, you're busy fixing the right things.
Now let's drop down to the data layer, because this is where the magic really starts to happen, thanks to a standard like ISO 1424. Look at the difference here. Before, you get these vague, free text comments like, pump stopped working, useless for analytics. But after, you get structured, powerful information. You know the precise failure mode, the physical mechanism, and the root cause. You're turning a messy diary into a powerful diagnostic tool. And what's so cool about this is how specific and granular it gets. ISO 14-2024 gives you a different language for different types of equipment. A pump failing from impeller erosion is a totally different story than a valve failing from seat wear. This standard gives you the exact vocabulary you need to tell those two stories accurately. And this is why it all matters so much. You can run reports all day, but if your work orders aren't capturing this kind of structured detail, they aren't teaching you a single useful thing. You're just counting failures. You're not actually learning from them. Which brings us to the process and performance layer. Oh man, we've all been in that meeting, right? Where you spend an hour arguing about what downtime really means instead of talking about how to improve it. Well, standards like EN 153041 put an end to those debates. They create a shared dictionary for your KPIs, so when you look at a number, everyone agrees on what it means. You're finally comparing apples to apples. Okay, so you get it, you see the value, but the idea of implementing all this probably feels huge. The good news is, you don't have to boil the ocean. Let's walk through a practical, achievable plan to get started. You can tackle this in phases. Start small. For the first 3 months, just focus on stopping the bleeding. Standardize your asset names and start enforcing some basic failure coding. That's it. Then, you can build on that foundation and bring in the richer ISO 1424 language. From there, you align your processes and your KPIs. And way down the road, you tackle the big picture stuff like interoperability with new projects. See? It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Woo! We have covered a lot of ground. So let's bring it all home and distill this down to the most important takeaways, the actions you can start thinking about today.
All right, let's put it all together into a simple action plan. First, use ISO 55001 as the fundamental chassis for your whole management system. Second, and this is the biggest quick win, implement failure coding based on ISO 14224 to stop the data rot right now. Third, make your reports credible by standardizing your KPIs with something like EN 15341. Fourth, look to the future and start requiring structured data handovers from your new projects. And finally, and this is a big one, change your mindset. Start treating your data like the incredibly valuable strategic asset it really is. And that really leaves us with one final crucial question to think about. When you look at your own organization right now, today, is your maintenance data an asset that's driving smart decisions, or is it a liability, just creating confusion and risk? With standards, you actually have the power to make that choice.